Hello YouTube, it's your boy, the Passport Bro Wingman, coming at you again with another YouTube video. And the title of this video is called Cheapskate Passport Bros. You don't want these men, ladies. They're poor, says Maggle. And the way this video came about was, a lot of times I'm going through my comments in my videos. And so anyway, there was a guy in one of my videos who, and I'm not going to mention his name because I don't want to give him more attention than he's trying to gain by, trolling my comment section. So anyway, he said he posted a response video to one of my videos. He wanted me to check it out and give me a response. So I went and took a glance of his video and briefly listened a little bit of it. And again, I'm not going to leave a link in the description box because I don't want to give this guy more attention than he needs. He's one of these other pander bears that are going around pandering to a lot of the modern women and saying negative things about the Passport Bros. But I'm going to sum up his video and then I'm going to debunk a lot of his talking points. And he's probably listening, which is fine. But and I don't want to make this video completely about him. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tie in his talking points with a lot of talking points that a lot of these naysayers and maggles have said against the Passport Bros, and I'm going to debunk them. So just to sum up the video, it mainly was about him calling Passport Bros cheapskates, saying things like when we're in America, we like doing 50-50 dates, coffee dates. And he's pretty much comparing us to some of the other men, saying the other men are more willing to spend money on their women. And overall, we're just cheap, which is why we go to these foreign countries, because we don't have any money. So we're going there to take women out, to wine and dine women there because, we can't do it back home. So this is our way of getting our rocks off by going there and feeling like a man. But really back home, we're, for the most part, we're low value men who can't really wine and dine women in the States. So pretty much telling women to avoid us. Then he goes on to talk about also he's mainly catering to a female audience. He's pretty much telling them as well to avoid us because we're not the marrying type. We just go to these countries. We're not wifing these women up. So when we go to these countries, we're just going on dates just to use women for their attention and affection, but we really are not serious with them. So he goes on to say that. Then he even goes into a Cynthia G type of tirade in which he's saying that there's so much male worship in America, and most of the women shouldn't listen to Kevin Samuels or his talking points because he feels that by them being fit, friendly, and feminine, he said, pretty much saying that you're doing it you're pretty much trying to cater to men who are just cheap and not really worth it. So that sums up about what the video is about, that we're cheap. We don't want to marry women. And for the most part, we're not really worth catering to. And we shouldn't, we're not really worth coming to the table for. That's overall sums up his thing. He sounded very hateful throughout the video. I hate to go into a who hurt you type of situation because that's usually a talking point they use against men, but it really did sound like he has a lot of deep hatred against men in general. So let me break down some of these talking points and kind of speak to it because he's not the only one that's have said these kind of things against the Passport Bros, but I'm going to debunk a lot of his talking points. So he starts off with this story about this woman who meets this gorgeous man in Italy, and the guy's taking her out on like 17 different dates. And then after all these dates, after he wine and dines her, then he wants to propose to her. The reason he brought that story about is he wanted to use that to pretty much say that Passport Bros are the exact opposite. We'll take you out on dates, but it's going to be very cheap dates. We're going to be very antsy about the bill. And then afterwards, even after doing all these dates, we're not going to marry you. So in his mind, why even bother with the Passport Bros? And nothing can be further from the truth. And let me get into that. First off, where did this concept of 50-50 and coffee dates come about? The reason that came about was there was a study done that said about 30% of women that went on dates, they did a dinner and dash, which means they just used the man for the food and then they left. And a lot of men have been experiencing this. Same thing with men going to clubs. They buy a woman a drink. The woman a drink, and then she'll run off. She won't give them their number. And a lot of women do this purposely. For that reason, some men have been very guarded as far as their finances, as far as buying women drinks, as far as taking women out on dates, which is why a lot of red pillers would say, I'm not taking you out on a date. We'll just go for a coffee date, or we'll go on a walk in the park. Has nothing to do with being cheap. That is not the reason for that. It's more about relationships being reciprocal. I give you something, I get something in return. A lot of times these women are doing a la carte on men. They use one man to fix up their car, one man to take them out on a date, another man to blow the back out. They're just using men in general, exploiting men for the most part. So men have caught on to this. So that's why this 50-50 dates and these coffee dates have come about. Now, I'm not saying that there's no such thing as a cheap man, as a man who don't want to pay anything. For instance, he brought up a situation in which a guy would rather take the girl to his house, have dinner and drinks there instead of taking her out to the club. Again, the reason for this is when men work with their hard-earned money, they don't like just buying drinks for random women who are just going to use them from drinks. And then later on, they're going to get rid of their number. They're going to block them. And they're going to do all types of stuff. That is what the men are trying to avoid. It has nothing to do with money or being cheap. Because if that's the case, when you go to these other countries, what you're going to notice about the passport bros, we have no problem whining and dining women, taking them to some of the most expensive restaurants there. Now, if we want it to be cheap, you do understand that in these countries, you can get meals for about $2. We're not taking women to the $2 restaurants. We could do that if we want to be cheap. And on top of that, we're not trying to buy women because a lot of people mentioning we're down there tricking on women and women are using us and running off. That's not the point of the wine and the dining. For example, okay, so here's the thing about men in general. We're not super talkative in general. We don't just go out being super talkative and that kind of thing. For example, when I was younger, I had when I first moved into a neighborhood, I really didn't know that many people in the neighborhood. I met a few people here and there. So what happened was my father, he bought me a basketball hoop. So once I put the basketball hoop up, suddenly day by day people were coming by. They were playing basketball with me. Within about 2 to 3 months, I knew most of the people in the neighborhood. Now, why would I bring that story up? I brought that up to tell you that the basketball hoop pretty much was a way to break the ice with other men. A lot of times, you even find guys in school, a lot of times when they try to meet women, what do? They might act like they don't know how to solve a math problem, so they'll ask one of the girls in the classroom that they are attracted to, hey, do you know how to solve this problem? The whole purpose of that is to break the ice. When they break the ice, what are they trying to do? They're trying to build a bond. They're trying to build a bond with that person. So a lot of times when guys are taking women out on dates and that kind of thing, you got to think about what type of state are they trying to put the woman in. They're trying to build a bond with her. Now, again, here's another example to make it to bring my point in even further. Okay, so you go in the classroom, you're a teacher. Now, as a teacher, you know there's going to be several different types of students. You're always going to have this student in there who comes in ready to learn. They're asking questions. You're a science teacher, so you bring out these little experiments. You see they have joy when they're doing the experiment. You're showing them different things they can do in the experiment. They're very interested. It's barely any work to actually get this child to learn. Then you have this other child that every day comes in. They're asleep in class. You try to put together fun little games for them to do to learn, but in spite of that, they're very rude to you. They talk back to you. They get up. They're the class clown. You have all types of problems. Now, here's the thing. As a teacher, you should love all the students in the classroom, even the ones who are uninterested, very difficult to work with. But here's the thing. You'll be lying to yourself if you didn't favor one type of student over the other. And obviously, the teacher is going to favor the student that's cooperative, that's interested. In a sense, there's somewhat of a bond there. Versus the other student, not only do they not want to learn, but they're very difficult to deal with. And that I'm tying into dealing with some of the different, and of course, using this analogy, you know who the foreign woman is and you know who the modern woman is. Men are tired of dealing with the modern woman. Very difficult to deal with, very difficult to bond with. The problem is If he spends all his money going on dates with these modern women, you do that, and that doesn't necessarily mean that there's going to be a bond. And on top of that, not only is there not going to be a bond, but you're just wasting money. Versus if you go to these other countries, at least there's an opportunity there at that as you're bonding with her, as you're taking her to these dinners and these dates, there's going to be opportunity where she wants to bond because she's interested in you because you're a foreigner. So the whole point of the whining and dining has nothing to do with money or trying to buy a woman's affection. Really what it is breaking the ice. And in the process of breaking that ice, the guys usually are opening up to the women. He's telling her about where he comes from. He's telling her about where he works. It makes it easier to bond with the woman and find if you have some type of chemistry. In America, you're never going to get that. Many times women, they're just looking, they're once they see your photo on Tinder, they're not even going to swipe left on you. They're not even going to give you that attention. You got women saying things like, he must be 6 feet tall, have six-pack abs, must make 6 figures or more. And only 10% of men make over 6 figures, so it's not even that realistic. And of course, the men who make over 6 figures, we also need to take into account that some of these men are in their 50s, 60s, 70s, and a lot of women here, they're not trying to really date. For the most part, they're not trying to. Women in their 20s are not really trying to date men like that in the United States. So that's that. The other thing is, you talked about, pastoral bros. We don't want to marry women. We're not trying to marry women. We're just going to take all these. For example, one of the things he brought up was when you go to, for example, Brazil, Colombia. He said one guy talked about, oh man, when I went down there, the women were so feminine. They cooked for me. They cleaned for me. She gave me a massage. And his response was, well, did you marry him? And here's the thing. First off, when you go shopping, when you go to a store, when you want to buy a car, you don't jump on the first car you see. It may be a nice car that the dealer is showing off, but you want to see all the cars you can before you make your right selection. What is wrong with that? In America, literally the women have their pick of the litter most of the time. And they go out on these dates, but they're not planning to have sex with these guys. They're not planning to take things further with these guys. They're just trying to date till they find the right guy. You did not criticize any of these women for having this attitude. You only bash the men. And again, you're talking to these women telling them, don't date these men as if we care. We're not looking for these women anymore. We have opted out and moved on. All Kevin Samuels was trying to do, he was trying to bring the men and women together. He was trying to bring them together. But passport bros in general, which is why we've opted out of the matrix completely. We don't even want to date most of these. We don't even want to date these women. That's why we're leaving. All Kevin Samuels was trying to do was trying to expose to them some of the things they're doing wrong so that they don't end up dying alone. Right now in the black community, most black women, only 1 in 3 are getting married. In the white community, only 1 in 2. But here's the thing. Once the boomer generation goes away in the white community, that number drops to 1 in 3 as well. All he was trying to do is help women become more attractive so that they have a lifelong partner so they're not losing men to foreign women. That's what he was trying to do. Now, that's not what I'm trying to do, and that's not what several of the passports trying to do. We just said forget it completely, which is why a lot of passport bros and men on the internet in general will say Kevin Samuels was your last hope. He was trying to bring the community together, and when he died, these same modern women, including you, sir, because you're probably listening, including you, cheered when he died. But most men saw that and said, I don't want a part of that. That's why we left. Has nothing to do with us being cheap, sir. And again, when we're in Brazil, when we're in Colombia, we're staying in nice hotels, and these hotels are the same price as they are in America. Especially ask anyone who's traveled that went to Cartagena. The prices at the restaurant, the prices at the hotels are the same as they would be in America. That's an expensive travel hub. You got people coming from all different countries there. These countries aren't cheap to go to. For example, to go to Brazil, you're talking about a $700 plane ride. In America, most people are one accident away from being thrown out on the streets. You're talking about a $500 accident from being thrown on the streets. So they don't have the money to be traveling like that, which obviously means the men who are traveling have money, sir. No one is broke or cheap that's traveling. None of the passport bros are broke or traveling. Even the few who work, maybe their $40,000 job, $50,000 job, and let's say they leave in their passport bro, and they might go out to the country about 2 weeks a year. Either way, that tells you they have their finances in order. And even when they go there, they're planning correctly. And again, when they're dealing with these women, again, we're not going to the cheapest restaurants. And a lot of times the women themselves, sometimes they may recommend a restaurant that they go to because the average salary is only about $200. So they have restaurants they like going to. What you're not keeping in perspective is those women in those countries have lived in dire situations, and they're used to finding peace and enjoyment in life without material possession. So they don't care about necessarily going to fancy restaurants. They're okay. If you think about the fact that if the passport bros weren't there, they're going to date the local men. The local men there don't have money to go to these fancy restaurants. The women are okay marrying these men, going on dates with these men to some of the to some of the quote unquote cheaper restaurants. They've been growing up their whole life going there. That's not if a passport bro took them to these restaurants, that's not a negative on them. That's just what the locals do there. Now, what the passport bros try to do is give them an experience and take them to a place that they've never been. And the whole purpose of that is not to say, oh, I'm this big baller, you'll get with me, I'll be this big baller. The whole purpose of that is it makes it easier to bond with the woman. It makes it easier to give her experience. That is the whole purpose of that. Men in the States do the same thing. The problem is when they take these women out on these dates, these women are just dinner and dashing, taking their money and leaving. You talked about, oh, well, we're sitting there antsy about $100 date. First off, you have women doing things like if the man don't show up, she wants to charge him money, a deposit for not even showing up. The thing is, men are taking these women out on dates, and the women are not reciprocating. The women are not reciprocating any type of affection. In many cases, they have no plans on going further dates with these men. They're just using these men for their money. You know, you have all these videos online about where to find rich men. Snoop Dogg talked about a woman who went through a vent while he was in the bathroom just to talk to him. And these women are lining up for this. And here's the kicker. Snoop Dogg and these other men that these women are chasing after, these other men who you say they should go after instead of passport bros. These men they're going after, they're not marrying them either. If you haven't noticed, we have a high single mother rate in America. And and here's the thing, 50% of black men are in the middle class and they have no children. So you got to ask yourself, who are these women going after? They're going after the same set of men who are doing what, sir? Not marrying them. So that's not a passport bro thing. That's a thing here in America in general, sir. And even in Latin America, they have a high single mother rate, which means what? The local men are not marrying those women either. So you can't put this face on passport men as if we're just these men who go down there, use up women, and we don't take care of them. We're not looking after them, because that's just false, sir. If you don't know, in most of these countries, the domestic abuse rate is very high, and these men do not go to jail, which is why a lot of the women like the passport bros, not necessarily because they can take them out on dates, because we're so gentle and nice with them. You even have foreign women in the Philippines and even in Colombia say they would prefer to date foreign men because we're more gentle with them, because we come from a country where feminism is out of control and they constantly bash men. So when we come there, we're very gentle with the women. We're more often than their own local men that they date to work things out with them and allow them to have freedoms that they don't even have in their own countries with some of their men, sir. And I'm going to end it on that. If you got anything else to say, send your response video. And to all the guys listening, tell me what you think. Leave your comments. Please hit the thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel. And until next time, this is your boy, the Passport Bro Wingman, signing off.